What is going on, people? Today I got a video that I did not upload. This was back actually in KVK. We had an atrocious KVK matchup. We actually had a rally party and everything. I think we had like 10 plus rallies, and we could not find anyone from another kingdom. Nobody was getting into Fury. It was just crazy. So we ended up starting hitting our own kingdom. Now some of you might say that that's in bad taste, but let's be honest, in kingdom versus kingdom, there's a lot of people that hit their own kingdoms. And also, kingdoms aren't really going for like a kingdom win. Most guilds are just going there for kills. So whether we hit our kingdom, whether we hit the other kingdom, doesn't really matter. It's still going to be kills regardless. Now, there are definitely some people that feel different, and I can definitely understand both sides of the argument, but we had like absolutely no luck whatsoever. So we decided, well, this guy hasn't moved at all, hasn't joined any rallies, hasn't moved at all, so we might as well go for him. 2.1 billion in gear, just sitting there in KVK. I don't know how people know that KVK is around the corner and absolutely just decide to not pay attention to their game. But yeah, that's what this guy decided to do. Now, we were sending initially infantry rallies because he was in a range formation, range wedge, I believe it was. So we were still doing decent damage, but you gotta remember, he's probably in talents, in gear, and all of that. But also remember that nowadays, whether you're in talents, in gear, and everything, if you're offline for long enough and your enemies have enough rallies, you're gonna be zero regardless. So just something to keep in mind. Now, for the second wave here, we did not know exactly what he still had, and there was a couple of things that we started to do just in general when you have rally parties, etc. So if we have 5 or 6 rallies on a target and we test our front line and we check to see if it's like infantry or whatever it may be, and everybody's set essentially the same to try and clear out the front line, a smart thing to do is actually go ahead and release one rally and see how that one rally does. And if that one rally gets countered, then you know that he's online and switch, especially if they switch gear, etc. And then that way you can preserve all the other rallies or in bunnies or whatever it may be. But if that rally hits good, like it did here, then you know, like, okay, this guy's definitely not online, and then you're okay to release the rest of the rallies. So it's a different type of strategies, and it definitely has some counterplay to it, but it is a safer way of making sure that at least some of your rallies will be able to hit well, instead of just having them all get countered. Because if it's a big rally target like this one is, you know, 2.1 billion in gear, all mythic gear, in talents and all of that, obviously he had a range front, so we all needed to send infantry either way if we wanted to stand any sort of chance. And if it was online, then it was just GG's either way. So it's just a good way to kind of do it. And there's the burn. Woody, of course, gets the burn out of the forest. Well, actually, we can't even call it forest anymore, right? Like, what do we call that nowadays? I don't know. Out of the bricks? I don't know. Either way, I don't know what to call that. I guess we can still call it the forest, but it's kind of hard to call it the forest when it doesn't even have any sort of grass or anything, like, at all. But either way, once you get burnt out at this point, it's just a cleanup crew. And Hell Chicken is on fire, so it's definitely in hell. Now, we had some cav rallies set because we thought that we were gonna be already past the range, so we were expecting some pretty big hits. I was expecting to hit pretty well because I knew that there was going to be a rally that would be hitting in front of me, and then even if there is still a little bit of range, I could still get a decent hit just because of how it would shape up. We were gonna walk on time, but there is a rally that should be hitting right before. I think it was KW2. So I was thinking, okay, this is gonna be a pretty good hit. So there's the first one. That one actually smoked, which I was like, wait a minute, how did that smoke? I'm a little confused. I'm a little scared. And then Woody actually is able to hit right before me, literally seconds, which I didn't think. But then even Woody smoked it. So I was like, wait, what's going on here? I'm a little confused. We had 2 smoked after burning. Are we doing it wrong? And I do get the burn after, and then KW7 comes in and mops it up there at the end, essentially. But funny enough, if you take a look at all of these hits, right, the only really big one was Woody, and he actually got capped, even though his hit was the biggest. So I was like, wait a minute, none of these hits were like really massive, except Woody's, but like I was expecting a bigger hit. And here's the problem, right? If you take a look at what he had left, essentially we got absolutely terrible luck. We ran into some range, which was already pretty bad. Because I thought that it was gonna be no range left, maybe, but I still went in a formation thinking that maybe even if there is, I get through half of it and then go into the infantry. But I was just looking at the report like, how did I do so little damage, considering yes, he had range, but he didn't have much range. So I started to think, and after looking at the report a little bit more after, it's clear what happened, right? I got through the range, or at least half of the range, and then I got unlucky and started hitting cavalry instead of the infantry. So I never really got to hit the counter. And the infantry that actually you see here in the report, the 748,000, that's actually just from the familiar. The familiars alone did that much damage, which is what they usually hit for. So yeah, and then once you take a look at his gear, also his gear is predominantly range gear. Like, yes, he has a bunch of like mixed gear, but almost all of his gear has range stats on it outside of the firewall. So you add all of that together, me going from range into calves instead of infantry, his range gear being the highest, him being in talents and all that, and all of that attributed. So I just wish we would have hit infantry instead of the calf, but it is what it is. Sometimes that's the type of hit that you get. And even after all of that, we still weren't able to solo him because he had a decent amount of T4 still. So there was just one rally that was going to hit, and there it is. That down to 1.4 billion from 2.1, and even that hit wasn't even that good. It's just, I like I said, range wedge is the best formation to take rallies in, just generally speaking, because it's really hard to crack, and after they do get past your range, the targeting can be a little hit and miss. Can be inf, can be cav, just depends on quite a few factors. And of course, when stuff like this happens, you guys know generally what happens right after this, right? We had one more rally that was gonna walk, and then he shields. Oh no, the timing. War Demon, literally War Demon's rally was gonna hit in a few seconds, and then he managed to shield. Man, this is why I always say, guys, if you think you're safe, 2.1 billion in gear, in talents, all of that stuff, if you're unreachable for 20-30 minutes and you can have 3, 4, 5 rallies on you, you can be zeroed. So this is not the type of game that you can just be unreachable or sleep like a rock and think that being unshielded just because you have talents and gear on, you're not gonna get zeroed. You can be zeroed. So always be careful. But yeah, appreciate you guys for coming through, and until later, bye.